Also doing remote hybrid conferencing in this meeting. This meeting will be live streamed on the school board's YouTube channel. Request for public comments participation will be accepted between 4 and 4:30 by sending an email with your name, phone number, and topic to Robin Cushenberry at BufordK12SC.us. You will receive a phone call during public comments where you'll be able to speak and address the committee for a maximum of 3 minutes on issues within the committee's domain. The forum will be limited to 15 minutes. Okay, everyone stand please for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
We have a second? I will second. It's been approved and seconded to approve the agenda. Moved and seconded, right? And I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. Next item is public comments. Please call our caller.
Hi, Dave. I'm calling you for public comments.
Okay, thank you, Robin.
Okay, you may go ahead and start.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. I appreciate you taking my call and for your help today and every day. A little bit disappointed to hear Mr. Geyer's comments.
Hi, Dave. I'm calling you for public comments.
Okay, thank you, Robin.
Okay, you may go ahead and start.
Okay, up to them or given to them as class. That kind of goes against the whole mission. The mission of the district is to provide a safe educational environment, and when you have poor graphic material, it's no longer safe. You've got roughly 30 librarians that fail to do their job in keeping only age-appropriate material in the libraries. So you've got a little over $1 billion a year that you're spending in salaries that needs to be investigated. Someone's not doing their job, someone's not holding them accountable, and it's up to me to hold you accountable to make sure that gets looked at. So I need you to put that as a priority in your committee. I'm pretty sure it's a fair request and it's a reasonable request, because right now we're exhausting probably resources of about $2,000 for every book review if you were to add up all the time and everything that's going into it. When initially, if a librarian spent an hour reviewing a book or less, in 15 minutes, there would have been no problem. And you at least have something documented. Along those lines, I know you've got your budget coming up and you're going to be trying to sell the community on the budget. And I think you're going to have a little bit of a struggle. And I know you're trying to round up money for your referendum this fall. It's going to go on the ballot in November. And I think you need to make a positive move with these books, or you're not going to get the support you need for either of those things. I'm just trying to get you a little bit of friendly advice from a concerned citizen and a parent. And the last thing I want to do is make your job harder, but I do want to see you succeed. So with that in mind, I appreciate you giving me a minute to talk today, and I wish you all the best this evening. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Moving on. Approval of the December 5th, 2022 committee meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Chairman, I make a motion that we approve minutes of December 5th.
Okay, I will second that. Been moved and seconded. Are there any?
First of all, my name is Ms. Bill, the local action section. Please
Okay.
aid on me then. It's okay.
You take care of that. Okay, with those corrections, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Monthly Board of Education report for the budget. I have only one question. Mr. Campbell, do you have anything that you saw on the board budget report?
No,
I see that the District 1 representative has spent 79.2% of their travel state, and District 9 has spent 86%. Everybody else is at 50% or less. It's not a problem, but we just need to keep kind of an eye on that, because we have new board members that for half a year haven't made any travel. So there's ample travel pay if the representative from District 1 or District 9 needs to go travel. There should not be any constraints to doing that. The backside of this is everything is under 50% committed, except for unprepared food, 111%. Are we buying that many snacks?
Check and see if that is the case.
Generally cater under the miscellaneous services category. There's a $10,000 budget there. We've extended about 3,000, so
We're in good
we
shape.
could shift from the prepared food area to the unprepared.
Let's make that adjustment. We'll be working a little cleaner.
Question. Previously, you all had made a motion that we could not do any budget transfers for the whole year in our budget, because you all wanted to see by the end of the year where we, so are we.
Oh, I remember that now.
So I had not been making budget transfers
Okay.
because you all wanted to see what it was for the end of the
Okay,
year.
yeah.
So do we want to still do
Yeah.
that, or?
No, I think as long as our overall budget is under 50%
Okay.
expended this far into the fiscal year, there's no need to shift any revenue.
Okay.
Mr. Campbell, is that all right?
that's fine.
Next item on the agenda,
Ingrid has joined us as well.
pardon me?
Ingrid has joined us as well.
Oh, good. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the monthly $100,000 reports for the months of November and December. Ms. Crosby, would you like to
Yes.
start off on those, please?
These are monthly $100,000 reports. We have the consolidated report. And with a little less detail, and then the detailed report, which is about 20 pages long. So this report's intent is to just show, and it is there's a board policy that requests there's an expectation that we report out $100,000 purchases and or contracts over $100,000. We do that and provide a prior year for the same month so that there's some comparison. And
Right.
oftentimes there's timing differences between the two, or there could be changes in vendors from one year to the next. So so they're typically some of the same vendors each month that we
Right.
see.
I looked at these, and Mr. Campbell, have you had any comments on these? I have a couple questions, issues. Dominion Energy bill has gone up considerable, which I expect because it's gone up for everybody. It's roughly 2 times more than it was last November.
It appears that we paid in the prior year 2 months of payments. So I think the timing probably occurred right at the end or the beginning of a month.
Okay, so
And the current year is 1 month of
Okay.
payments.
all right, that explains that.
Mhm.
Education Epiphany. It's right now at 4 times more than we spent last year.
Yeah, these are professional development, literacy training services, Will Branch Elementary, ELA student workbooks. Last year, there were some PDT planning sessions and services. So this year we had, in addition to the training, we had some workbook sets purchased as well. So that,
Yeah, this is not a problem overall budget. It's just a considerable increase in that particular field from.
Wendy Cartledge joined the meeting.
Welcome,
I
Wendy.
suspect what is true, it would likely be ex federal funding probably, because Will Branch is a Title I school.
Right,
Or could be ESSER funds, so
right.
I could drill down and see.
The
what
only,
account
the
numbers.
only reason, the only thing this is valuable for is to look for just unusual amounts or increases from year to year. Variances. I saw that we spent much less in substitute teachers, 1/3 less in November than we did the previous year. That's good.
Very good. And I think increase in teacher salaries as a
Yes.
result is
Yeah.
it resulted
Yeah.
in.
But we go to the December, we paid more. So, I mean, maybe they forgot about that in December.
Or the billing.
Or the
may
billing
have
is,
gone
or the billing
or
is tacked on,
doubled.
could be held up some in November. Yeah. They went through the whole report and what Mr. Campbell and Ingrid, what I propose is that from now on, we submit for in the full board budget, this consolidated report, and then simply refer to the full report that will be on the website for full transparency for people to go through it. If they want to go through the 39 pages, 40 pages, everything, fine.
Just recently, my team who is here, we have Ms. Hamlin, Ms. Matson, Ms. Phillips are here. And we discussed perhaps doing a dashboard, a one-page dashboard, like similar to the ESSER update that we do.
Like it.
So we want to go back and develop something that may have half of the page with a summary of what you see here, some comparisons, and perhaps a breakdown and a pie chart or some sort on the left side, showing you some of the largest vendors spending and perhaps the dollar amount total that we spent for the month with that vendor.
Right.
That's going to show you the activity. And the some of the largest vendors that we spend dollars with, and it will continue to show a summary of the consolidated report to see here, and then we can provide that detail on the website. So if you're open to that, we'd be happy to draw up a dashboard type.
So you have a bar graph.
Yes.
What do you think, Mr. Campbell?
I think that'd be fine.
So it's more of a visual look
Right,
at it,
right.
and it might be easier to read than some of these smaller numbers and
Right.
details.
Ms. Boatright, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand a little bit as we get ready to look at technology and referendum spending and whatnot. One of my concerns is just trying to understand how our categories in our financial report. So I'd have to see it to understand it, but one of the things I'm really trying to look at the more detailed reports on from my point of view is trying to understand, like, when you say we're looking at the big ones and it's technology, what does that mean? Because technology gets used a lot, right, in the technology budget. Is that educational software? Is that, new equipment, et cetera? So I don't know. I feel like there could be a better categorization, kind of metadata sort of view of this that would make more sense. And then I would be more in favor of a bar graph or a pie chart. But right now, I'd have to see what it looked like, because I feel like if we took what I'm seeing here now, it wouldn't give a lot. That bar graph or that pie graph would not give much actual information.
Perhaps perhaps your committee would get a special bar graph report that would break out the technology piece.
Well, yeah, it's not just that. It's sort of, sometimes I'm just trying to find out what, do we have a category for like professional development?
So we have different segments of our account codes that we use, and professional development is separated. We also have an extra code for instructional software versus business systems software. So like human resources and finance would be in a different category. So we do separate those out from instructional software. And so
is that on these reports somewhere and I'm missing it, or I'm sorry, I'm not very good at it. I've just only started really looking into these reports in more detail. Do we have those account codes, or where would I see those? Is this a really dumb question? I don't want to take up your time. I can.
It's not a dumb question at all. The $100,000 report does not list the account codes, but the transparency report does. And so we have to give you sort of a legend of a roadmap of the account structure in order for you to be able to decipher what is what.
Okay.
Can certainly do that, or we could do it for you sort of in a graphical representation somehow. My team is nodding that we can try to think about how that might look. But we could certainly, if you want the details of the account code. So for example, let's is there a technology?
Well, let me give you an example. I just tabbed over. So I'm looking at the full, and this may not be the right place for this because I'm not sure exactly with the dashboard, but like what I'm saying is if you're going to do, I'm not a huge fan of pie graphs or bar graphs because they usually are pretty overly simplistic. But if you like, there's one on here, Amazon.com. Oh shoot, my dog's working. James and the Giant Peach DVD for $8. I don't really care. You know what I mean? That doesn't bother me. Hold on. Let me mute.
Each committee could stand to have a budget breakout in a dashboard.
Sorry about that. Okay.
So they could look at, the operations could have something very similar. Academics could have something, again, general, consolidated by function, so that you could take a look at a macro sense. And if you see something in the macro that's why we've spent 60% of our budget in half of the year, you can go in and drill down into the eaches of. Yeah, that's an interesting idea because I think it's trying to find that balance between macro and micro. Like yes. I'm not interested in $8 DVD purchases, but I am interested in how much money maybe we spent on, extra classroom supply, well, however we categorize that. And I know it's kind of an overwhelming amount of data, but I just feel like when I look at these things, I don't really have a sense. It's all very transparent, but I don't have a sense of how much we're spending in various categories and how that's changing over time.
So we have another mechanism that we have had on our website for quite a while, but we still want to be able to make some improvements to it. It is called Tyler Open Finance. So it's a module of our financial software, and it allows you to drill down in any category that you want. You can start at a high level and you can double click on it, drill down further and further and further and further to get a amount of detail. I think that might provide the functionality that you're looking for. But I do want to go back and make sure that it's providing all the funding sources and make sure that it's ready for active consumption, basically. So that is another idea that we could come back with and demonstrate that module to you.
Okay.
And that gives, and it's more, you can drill down based on the words instead of an account string. of numbers that you aren't familiar with. So.
Yeah. That sounds good. I don't want to make it overly complicated. I just wanted to get, if you're going to do a dashboard, I'd like to have a sense. So that sounds great.
Okay, we'll look into that. We'll, we talked about it today, actually, and we will, get that up and running, to a point that we're satisfied with, and then bring that back and let the committee take a look at it and see how we move forward.
I think it would be valuable, like I say, I think it would be valuable to have for academics and for operations to be
Yeah,
able to.
I agree, Colonel Guyer, like line it up with our committees a little bit too. Like each committee could have that
Right,
one high level view.
right. I think it would be very, very helpful. It's basically a relational database that you can.
And it coordinates with our financial reports. So the financial reports you're seeing have totals at summary levels, like total salaries, benefits, but they're in different categories such as instructional services or human resources. So you could use that broad data that's in those summarized categories from our financials. We could go to the website and go to this module and drill down even further into an area of interest. So I think we have the tools to do what you're looking for. We just have to figure out which one's the best one and most efficient one to use.
So, Earl, what do you think that we, at the Finance Committee report, the next board meeting, we state that the $100,000 report is a consolidated report and it's in the consent agenda?
That's fine.
And go from there.
Yeah.
And then if we have a question in the board meeting during agenda setting, I want to move the $100,000 report up to the full agenda, then we just have to have the data ready to hand out. That, yeah. What do you, is that good with you?
Sure.
Okay,
So you don't want us to include in the packets the detail? Just have it Word docs?
you
Or do
know,
it?
I think for this first one, since we have new board members that haven't seen the $100,000 report, that we give them both. And just ask them during the meeting, okay, which would you rather see? Would you rather see a consolidated report, or would you like to spend the time and drill down? Now, a couple of former board members wanted to do that. I don't think we have those, that kind of requirement. Sometimes boards that are big boards for big corporations have a staff to do that for the board. We don't have a staff. We rely on the district staff, and I don't want to have that. I want to keep their workload down, trying to keep us informed, but still have the ability to get down into the weeds if we see something in the macro data that says, whoops, something's going on. Ms. Boatright, is that okay with you?
Yes, I'm all about efficiency.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, okay, let's move on.
Sorry, it's getting a little loud at my house because I'm trying to keep it on mute.
All right. Next item is our ESSER report. Crosby, what do you think?
Sure. So this report, courtesy of Ms. Maxson here at the end of the table, she did all the hard work on this. Looks much different than the last time you saw it. So you haven't seen it in about 2 months. And so the graphic, particularly ESSER 2 funds. And the reason why, I think we were about 50% spent, or maybe a little more than that, the last time you saw this graphic. So the bar graph on the top right quadrant looks substantially different. And now it is 92% spent. And these are these expenditures, or this grant expires September 2023. So the reason for that is the recruiting, the $2,000 recruiting and retention bonus that was provided to all employees employed in the district by November 15th or so. And that was paid out the 1st of December. So that has expended almost all of those funds. There is a little remaining that we continue to spend, but we'll complete that most likely by June 30th. So, and then we will begin expending almost all of the remaining funding just in ESSER 3. So that will continue. We're spending a couple of million, about $2 million a month on average. And we are continuing on track with our projection. And overall, we have expended 64% of the dollars that were allocated in these 3 grants. So we have about $28 million to expend, and we have another 20 months to spend those dollars. So
And we-
that's just over a little bit over, we need to spend at least $1 million a month or a little over $1 million a month. And we have been tracking on about $2 million a month. So
And I still hear we're getting kudos from state about our plan, how we're executing it and spending it on students and taking care of the achievement gaps that we gained during the COVID. So this is going to be a model for the rest of the state. Yeah, it really is, because a lot of them are not doing this. And they'll be panicking at the last minute to pay for it, and that's when you get into trouble, especially with the feds. When you try to bulk purchase a bunch of stuff toward the end of this, before the grant runs out, then you have problems. So this is good. Anything else you'd like to add?
I will add that just that on the summary sheet, we did do an amendment for ESSER 2, so we could consolidate into really 6 big things that are left to do in that. So that I just tell you what we did in the amendment there, because y'all had asked for a summary of that, those amendments as we did them. So it was just a budget move.
I'm going to ask that be presented in the committee's report. Full board sees this. This is very, very important. Mr. Campbell, you have any questions on this? Ms. Boatright, do you have any questions?
Not on the ESSER funding, but I was wondering, did I miss the transparency report, or that get lumped into the 100,000?
It got lumped into the 100,000.
Okay, can I ask a question about that when ESSER is done?
Sure. You have anything on ESSER?
No, sir.
Okay, let's go back to the transparency report. What was your question?
December or November?
I'm sorry?
December or November?
Either one. As I was looking at these things, the only one specific question I was just kind of thumbing through, was it looks like on one of our community partners, we're actually in one church, we're paying a facility fee. Are we doing that for all of our community partners or just that one?
I'm going to turn that question over to Ms. Matson. Those are paid through ESSER funds.
Yes, they all receive a monthly, some call it facility, some call it rental fee there as part of the contract of using their spas.
So all of the churches that are doing that do get a fee.
Yeah, yes.
In addition to paying payroll for the program.
Correct.
And then my general question is, can you explain the difference between the general fund, a generated fund, and the pupil and student fund?
The general fund is the general operating fund of the district. The budget's $298 million. So the size of that, we pay for almost all, well, with the exception of grants, it's generally the majority of our teachers, staff, supply allocations, athletics, all of those things generally come through those areas. Pupil activity funds are funds that belong to the schools, and they are broken down into various accounts. Some are different at each school level, depending on the kind of club activities that they have, athletics that they may have. They may have different sports in different accounts. And they typically, those are generated, the revenues are generated through gate fees or fundraisers or donations. And the expenditures are typically, I would say, for athletics, like perhaps game officials, referees, or field trip expenses, or other club activities. They may be raising money for a particular purpose to donate to a charity or something. So those funds have a balance that roll over from year to year. So the general, that is different from the general fund. Everything that happens in the general fund rolls into the fund balance if there's a profit, or and does not continue into the next year. So we don't have balances, we don't carry over anything in the general fund, but everything in student activities carries over by individual school and individual account and is tracked separately.
And then a generated fund?
I'm not sure what a pupil activity and student generated fund. So the students are generating the revenues.
I thought it was a separate kind of fund.
It's the same.
Okay, so on the pupil,
Is what that means.
sorry, what?
It wraps.
It wraps.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the pupil and student activity fund, so like the schools get a budget from the general fund for like athletics, right?
Yes.
And is that the same for all schools?
There are on a formula-based allocation.
Okay. And does that come out at one lump sum, or does that come out monthly?
We give them a lump sum budget, and then they budget those funds to and apply any expenses throughout the year. So we budget one time a year.
Then there's sort of the student pupil fund, which is like gate fees and stuff. And then the booster funds are separate from that, right? The district doesn't really do anything with those.
Correct. They are not in our financial statements. Booster clubs are a separate legal entity.
Okay. All right. Thank you for, I'm sorry. I know that you've probably done this a bunch of times. I just was getting lost when I was looking at all this. All right. Thank you for answering my questions.
You're welcome.
Okay. Moving on. Next item, and I'd like to change the agenda rules here a little bit, because we're going to be talking now about the financial services organization chart. And then we have the comparison to other school districts up, down beyond that. So let's go ahead and start with your organization chart, and then we'll discuss the comparison of this organization with other schools, okay?
Yes. So this organizational chart is for the financial services division. It was at the request of Mr. Smith to provide more detail that demonstrated the technology services division and food services division. I think the previous org chart that I brought forward I didn't have much detail in those two categories, but majority of in the finance department area. So this one provides the entire department. Keep in mind that under food service are probably almost 200 employees at schools that are not counted in this, that are hired, a few of which are Beaufort County School District employees, majority of which are the nutrition group employees, and those would be our cafeteria workers and managers. So that would be the only thing that you don't see here, but there is a large group in that. And then also in technology, we do have a technology support specialist. We have technology support specialists in our schools as well that would fall under these system supervisors and area supervisors as well. So this just provides a full picture of the entire division, and I'll be happy to take any questions on this.
Could you go across the red bar, the red titles there, starting with the Director of Finance and the Director of Fiscal Services, and just give a brief description
Yes.
of what that group does?
So from the far left, Director of Finance is Lori Mock. Lori is over payroll, accounts payable, and accounting. So she has some that work in more than one division. We do have folks that do a little bit of accounts payable, a little bit of procurement. So she is, for the most part, responsible for those direct functions. Cindy Phillips, who's here with us, she is newest to this directorship, and so she is handling our debt service area. And we have several other things that we have impact statements that come from the State Department. She's going to be doing work on the budget with local millage and the calculations going forward on that. And she is doing many of the approvals that are coming through the department as well, monitoring journal entries and other purchases that are made throughout the district.
Could you say quality control?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And Jennifer Hamlin is the Director of Budget and Procurement. So she has the budget staff as well as the procurement staff. And P-Card is in that area as well. So she has 2 ladies that monitor and audit every P-Card transaction. She has the procurement coordinator, and all of the procurement code is under that level of responsibility, as well as the capital projects coordinator. So he's monitoring, Louis Ackerman is monitoring our referendum, our 8% funds, attending clock meetings, attending CPRC meetings, attending departmental meetings with the facilities office to make sure, and he has a background in construction, so he has a hand in that area to really keep an eye on the budgets in that area. Denise Matson is here with us today as well. She's over all special revenue programs. That includes all federal. We have hundreds of special revenue funds, more than most entities. Federal programs is the primary area. That includes ESSER. That includes Title I, IDEA for disabilities, Perkins, which is CTE, career and technology area. She's monitoring, her staff are monitoring all federal programs, as well as all state allocations that we receive, EIA funds, special revenue, and then as well as ACE. So I think each of these folks, and probably everybody in the department, also has a hand in ACE as well. And so they're monitoring grants and things for ACE also. I forgot to mention student activities is monitored under Lori Mock, as well as cash flows as well. So each one has those responsibilities. Sheila Burtz, a few years ago, we found a need for having someone to manage the business systems in our division. So this evolved into a position, really a department of 2, and she manages, she is not single-handedly, but with a team of people, has automated several modules of Munis, and recently helped to get us into the cloud version of Munis. So she is our implementation specialist. She's our project management person that keeps us on track, tests systems before we go live into modules to make sure all the bugs are worked out. And then she's the troubleshooting person if things are going awry, and the workflow control person. She makes sure that the proper approvals in the system are going to the right person. So, and also with Sheila, she is assisting me with managing the food service transition. So so she is still keeping a hand in the food service area as well. And under her, I have an accountant that is helping not only with business systems, but is also helping to monitor ACE spending, building the ACE budget, building the ACE financials, and training staff there to make sure things are going well. So, and then we have technology services. Mark Shohan, as you know, has a team of area supervisors, project technicians, system network engineers here in we call it the NOC, Network Operating Center. And then those supervisors are out in the field and are helping to monitor and support the support specialists at the school levels, as well as helping to work on referendum upgrades with the facilities office and our contractors. And then we have the network food service, as you know, is contracted out. Joe Geiswhite is the director, and then he has a team of staff under him of supervisors, similar to technology. They have area supervisors. I think there are 6 that are out in our schools supporting when people with their short on staff or they need particular support with different functions that may having at Thanksgiving dinners and nice educational things that we're doing. And also coordinating the work there. And we have 3 internal staff of food service as well that is working on operations and accounting and other monitoring, or have required monitoring of food service functions in every school as well. So it's kind of an internal auditor, I guess you could say, as one of those positions. So big team, but we have a great one though.
Mr. Campbell, do you have any questions or comments? Ms. Boatright, do you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
I have just one. You've got your Title I position vacant.
Yes, we have that contracted out currently. We've had it filled for a brief time, then we had a vacancy once again. And so we currently have it contracted out. So the services are being performed, they're just offsite.
Contracted by,
An individual.
I will. It's really, as I've always done title, I've done 20 for 20 years. And so I can do a lot of the pieces except some of the compliance online. So instead of hiring a person, full-time person, we just pay a consultant $35 an hour for compliance review of all the documents that come in, the detail work on that. So it's about a $20,000 contract. So it's all.
that's good, because Title I is another one of these federal projects you have to keep a very close watch on. Because you got principals going crazy. You have to.
I try to tell them that all the
Yeah.
time.
You have to absolutely watch that they don't go outside the box that the feds state, because we can really get hammered, and a principal could be in big risk in title. I've seen that happen in other districts. Title I issue becomes a problem. There's 2 items with the feds you can get in a lot of trouble. Title I is one and food service is the other. Those you just have to be absolutely precise and follow through and check and recheck, because that can get away very easily. So that's a smart, to me, that's a smart way to handle it. As long as you have full
It's all
trust.
focusing on is compliance.
Yeah,
and looking at
as
that.
long as you have full trust and confidence in the person, and I'm glad you have an experience.
Yeah.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, definitely. No, I definitely do agree about the Title I conversation, but also in this conversation, my question too was also in terms of the in terms of the maintenance department. I don't think I've seen that on there either. Or maybe I missed it. How does that correlate in terms of what they have in the upkeeping? How does that tie into finance? And who do we have that?
So the maintenance division reports to Mr. Otting, along with custodial and grounds and some of the other operational functions. How does that tie in? We do have a bookkeeper in the maintenance department. She is a ABM and ABM employee, so we do provide training and support for her. And Mr. Otting has a staff member that is directly supporting her on a daily basis, because she's very familiar with the maintenance operations. So I believe she's a manager level in his division. So we have, and we include their bookkeeping staff in our trainings so that they receive the same information as our other school bookkeepers as well.
and even and with that, and so they in terms of the spending and because I'm sure that they have different budgets and stuff, so therefore their staff takes control of that, not none of your staff, and in terms of what that look like.
Maintenance has a budget. It is broken down in many categories. It is in that 254 category in our financial statements. So it's very easy to kind of break out and see, and we can demonstrate that when we get to the quarterly financial report. So they have different categories. Our facilities office does help to budget the supplies. Keep in mind that the maintenance contract that ABM is responsible for, we pay labor for labor services to ABM. All other supplies and materials come out of district. We make those purchases through our system. So they're all coming through the district for approvals and review, and every purchase is connected also to our work order.
Thank you. And also, last question: who's in charge if something happened to the chief of finance? Who's next in charge? Who's next in charge?
The person with the most longest standing in the department would be Lori Mock. She's been with us for 15 years. So I would have to say that she would be the person that I would have to say would be the next person in line as for any approvals in case of an emergency.
She takes Reggie's place.
She has not. I did not fill the position as it was. I am restructure the department and have more of a level, a more flat structure than previously. So that was a decision that I felt was important.
Well, and the reason why I asked that is because from looking at the chart, you have no one second in command. I mean, maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but that was the point of me asking that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's one to make it clear why I asked that question. But that will be written down somewhere, so just in case something does happen, then that information will be known. Or
yes, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Make that is communicated.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take a look at the staffing comparison. Finance departments with our peer districts.
So I will give the credit to Mrs. Phillips. She was able to gather information from what we saw as our peer districts in South Carolina school districts. These districts were similarly sized. We were on the lower end of the enrollment. So we base that on enrollment primarily. There was a clear break, and those that were smaller were significantly smaller. So these were identified as sort of peer districts, and these are very similar to the peer districts that we've used for many, many years. So, so in the far left-hand column, the average daily membership is the ADM, and we ranked 6th out of the 6 districts as having being on the low end of the membership. Average daily membership is different than the enrollment. It is more of an attendance factor, and so who is present on a particular date and in average status. So general fund budget is we were in the middle of that as well, and then the number of schools that we had were on the middle end at 33. That I think we're probably including Davis in that. So estimated employee count, we were on the low end from a perspective that could be due to contracted services that we have. Some districts contract out food service, some don't. So maintenance and custodial transportation. So that could be a factor in the differences there. And then a factor was assigned in order to provide a measurement of, well, that was the ranking, I'm sorry. So Beaufort Finance Equivalent is the total number of FTEs that we have in our division. So that would include areas such as federal programs, which are sometimes in other departments. Sometimes they're in instruction. We've had it in finance as long as I've been with the district for 21 years, and it's worked very, very well for us. So we also have an E-rate manager in our division, which is a little unique. That's technically a technology division, but he sits in technology and communicates constantly with us. So it's kind of, he has a foot in both worlds, but technically from a financial perspective, he's in the finance department.
That's a federal.
That's a federal program, yes. And then we also have ACE, which is unique to our district. So we have the responsibilities of another entity, $3 million budget, but a lot of the same things that we do for us, we do for
And Riverview.
And then we manage Riverview's budget, their allocations from special revenue that they're eligible for. And we bill them for services that our staff provide that are at their school. So we have a constant interaction with them and monthly payments to them. And we have their audit as part of our audit as well.
So you could really say 35 schools.
Maybe that's the 33rd, I'm not sure. So yes, we do have a couple of additional things that we don't typically count Riverview and ACE in that number. And so so we have some other data there, but for the most part, it's from a comparison standpoint, we were on the low to mid side of the comparison. And so from a ranking perspective, and so we are, it was nice to see that we weren't either very, very low or very high, but we are kind of somewhere in the low to mid area. So I hope this provides sort of some idea of sort of where we stand comparing to those peer districts.
What do you think, Mr. Campbell?
It's fine.
Ms. Boatwright, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I think this is really interesting and well done. I love the data. I love the breakdown and trying to compare apples to apples. I think that's fantastic. I think it's a lot of information to process. You know, I think it's really going to be an interesting document going forward. So I would just like to say well done.
Mr. Smith, do you have any questions or comments? Nothing heard. Mr.
Yes, yes, sir. I'm about trying to get my microphone. I was going to say, and basically in comparison of this document in terms of contract services, and in terms of contract services versus in-house services, how exactly did we get that data?
We don't have a contracted services number or amount on, and nor do we do any kind of comparison about the contractors in this comparison. I'm not sure how we would get that information actually. The employee counts come from
Different websites and contact the districts that didn't list it on the list.
yes. So we received that information. I'm not sure if you heard Ms. Phillips or not, but we contacted the districts. If the information was on their website, we used what they provided. And if they did not provide information, we contacted the districts directly. So some of them are ranges or averages, estimated amounts. That's why we made sure to put estimated employee count because they were an average amount or an amount that was quoted from a contact in the district.
Okay.
Got you. Also, and particularly, where does these numbers align in turn to all the positions that we subcontract out, as in custodials, the custodians, and other various contracts, and in terms of having them be regular employees.
When I have looked at numbers in the past and considered the approximate number of contractors, I would say from a standpoint of food service, custodial, maintenance, those that are working every day in our schools, not just those construction contractors, I would estimate that there's another 1,000 contractors working for the district.
You have anything further, Mr. Smith?
No, not this time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Campbell, I recommend that this report be given to the full board during the finance committee. So you'd be prepared to do that. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. ESSER staffing is the next item.
Yes, sir. So this is a listing requested, I believe, by Dr. Wisniewski. And so there was concern over the fact that we do have 20 months remaining in the ESSER grant that will expire in September 2024. There are 41 current positions in that are full-time employees. I believe I thought there was one vacancy on here, but I don't recall, but it's a nurse. One of the nurse positions is vacant currently.
There's an HR vacancy as well.
And an HR or human resources vacancy as well. So, so the 41 positions that are were approved in the ESSER grant, there are 2 of these positions that are vacant. With benefits amount to 3.8 million, 9 million annually. And so just for the good of the order, we have recently had a sort of a annual goal setting and meeting and things that we want to accomplish in the next year. And one of the major tasks that we're going to have is to plan the transition away from ESSER funds. So we have a number of things that we'll be doing, including building general fund budgets out for multiple years, but also making some decisions about some of the activities that are currently in the ESSER funds. And so we are beginning to embark on a process where we will explore every activity in the ESSER funds, which will include these positions, to help to make some decisions about effectiveness of some of the programs and how that will affect the ability or the desire to continue some of the programs through until after the ESSER funds grant has expired. So these will be analyzed throughout the course of the next year these will be part of that analysis and discussion. And we have already begun to plan that out. So.
Okay, Mr. Campbell, you have any questions? Ms. Boatwright, do you have any questions on that?
She's left here.
Left the room. Mr. Smith. You just got to give me some time to take a look at it. I'll go ahead and ask my question and I'll give you a little more time to take a look. Executive Director clusters, what in the world is that?
There is one position in that, and that is one of our EDs. So those are we have 3 executive directors. Right. One of those is over some of our media schools, and they are focusing on sort of transformational activities. But that is one of the 3 directors, executive directors.
That's Monolith.
Yes.
She's funded by ESSER.
Yes, sir.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions?
Yes, sir. In terms of this, I saw something about special. The special, the director of special revenue, what is that doing? Is that what is keeping up with all this money?
That is actually a partial position. I'm not sure why we had it 1.0 there, but that is Ms. Matson here. And she is managing the ESSER grant, make sure that you have that monthly reporting and monitoring the budget and the activities, and then meeting with the individual contact people. So if in finance I have money allocated for some particular purpose, she would meet with me on a regular basis to make sure that I'm spending at the level that, to make sure that those funds are expended by the end of the grant. And if I'm not, then we're going to think about other activities that those might be allocated to support, so that they can continue the length of the grant. So that's her, one of the roles in her, one of the duties of her position.
What percentage?
Her percentage is more like,
We just switched it because I'm out of 4 accounts, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, Title 1, and general fund. And so it's probably about 40%. It just depends on I have to count my hours. It just depends on the hours at the end, but how it is. So it's how you work, that's how you get charged.
Yeah, I know it's rough. Okay. Anything, else, Mr. Smith?
This the educational technology coach, where is that? Is that in a school? Or where?
Yes, sir. That was, let's see. That is in a school, yes, or in multiple schools. They're assigned, there's about
One above it too?
8 educational technology coaches. And so they're go wherever the need is in each school.
How about the one above it? The
Bilingual liaison.
Mr. Smith, perhaps this is something that we talk about in academic committee, because they just fund it,
right.
and they really don't.
No way where they
Don't do all the teaches of what they actually do. But that's a good point to bring up.
Right.
In the academic.
But basically, this is where all the ESSER funds money, grant money is going.
This is only 3.9 million per year of where those are going. There's activities there's over 150 activities in the ESSER grant. So the majority of it is not individuals, people. Majority of it, we have mental health. We have contractors for mental health. A wide variety of services that are provided, custodians, childcare. We have timesheets for people that are working childcare programs. We have tutoring, after school programs, and then we're buying materials and things. So
Yes, my question, that was
Yeah.
kind of, I was kind of new with after school.
this is just a small
Okay, yes.
portion of the budget, but these are continued full-time employees. So we do have to plan for the end of ESSER and whether those continue. We have sort of have 3 choices. We continue them, keep the positions in the general fund. We look for other alternative funding in special revenue funds, or we sunset the position and find other places for our valuable employees. So some decisions to make, and we'll be working on that over the course of the next year.
And ESSER funds that were in particularly July next year or January, how will that?
The end of the grant is September, but we want to be wrapping up by June 30th of 2024.
So I mean, this year going into budgets, we will have to.
It'll be last year. We'll still have funds for this budget that we're going to be voting up. We won't have to cut anybody in this next budget. like the year after that.
So the budget we're getting ready to build and bring to the board in the next few months will not be affected by ESSER funds. The following year will be. So that's why we're going to be planning a couple of years in advance to prepare for that.
Thank you. And that's gonna be, it's gonna be, I mean, we gotta do right by our employees.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell, I recommend that we have this chart given out during the finance committee report for the full board. You agree? Okay, we'll do that. Moving on to our last topic is not other than future topic, the quarterly financial report, Ms. Crosby.
All right. So we do have a one-page executive summary, so I'll just hit some highlights here, but for the most part, I am very pleased with what I'm seeing in this financial report. Typically, the last few years, some of a couple of things we look at, local revenues, those have been a concern in past years, and the collection rate, collection revenue collections that we've collected so far. And then also expenditures. We have had quite a bit of savings in the last couple of years because of vacancies, but we are beginning to see some of that turn around since we've been able to bring teacher salaries up to a more competitive level. So local tax collections at the end of the second quarter, so these are as of December 31st, are reported at $95 million, but it's also 53.4%. Prior year was 50.7%. So we're up a couple of percentage points above where we were last year. So that's very favorable. I do want to say a couple of years, 3 years in the last several, we've had anomaly years where something different has occurred with the deadline of tax bills. Last year, although the deadline was not extended, there were a large number of appeals, and so the penalties were waived through the remainder of through June.
Wait until you receive.
Yeah, that's right. That's why December collection last year stopped.
So penalties were waived, and so taxes weren't. So there was no incentive to pay the tax until a corrected bill had been received. So we did see collections at a slower level, particularly in January, February timeframe. So those delays, we have had no anomaly years like that this year. So that could be another reason for the collections being a little higher. So all in all, tax revenues do look good and healthy. We did have a tax anticipation note. We borrowed about half of what we normally borrow, $7.5 million this year. We have drawn it down. We have paid our first payment back, and we will be in our next payment. We will be paying the balance of it back so that that will be repaid within the next couple of weeks. State revenues are up as well. We're at 41.5%. Last year we were at 40%. And so we're seeing like the new funding formula estimates, those dollars are coming in a little better than expected. And so that is a good thing to have there. General fund expenditures, the total reported in the second quarter is up as well. We're at 44.6%. We compare that to 43.7%. That means we're spending at a higher rate as a percentage of the budget. And so that means, to me, that means there are fewer vacancies. And we're more on track to spend the full balance of the budget as opposed to having a large amount of savings. So it does, on the other hand, cause us a little anxiety because we want to make sure we're not overspending. And so we're actively doing projections to make sure that
But we're under 50%.
We're under 50%. And so we're in good shape right now, but we are actively, every payday, we run a projection to make sure we're still on track. So staff does that and do a great job at it. And so special revenue, we're at 60% of the budgeted amounts. And so ESSER funds make up the bulk, a lot of the spending there and amounted to about 16.5 million as of this fiscal year. So we are spending, amount that I'm comfortable that we will expend all the funds by the end of the grant period. And then debt service collections
Fantastic.
are up that more as well, which puts us in a very healthy place, a position for our tax revenue there, which helps support the referendum and the balances that we're able to repay there. So it puts us in a better position to, and the goal there is to have no tax increase for the future referendum.
That 12% increase is significant. Significant. That is really, really good news.
And we typically estimate a small amount of growth, maybe 1%. And so we need we need the revenues to outperform
Yes.
our estimates so that our goals will be met. Our goals of repayment, our goals
Right.
of no tax increase.
This gives me great confidence that that's going to happen. We get that kind of, that just shows the value of the mill. That just shows that all these high-priced houses that people are purchased from houses that were assessed at assessed value that was established in 2007 now got sold for 18-20% more than that, and they're taxed at that rate now. That's what this tells me right there. It's the value of the mill for 4%, or I mean for 6% property and 4% property is really going to be good.
And then capital is right on track. We're spending, we have 76% expended of our 8% funds. And then referendum projects are 86% paid and encumbered as of December 31st. So that's more now as we're about a month and about 5 or 6 weeks beyond that time. So things are going very well there. And as I know there's a lot of details here, but as you look at the expenditures, the categories that we're using are straight out of the State Department's required account structures. And so we just summarize them into major categories, salaries, benefits, and so on. But you do have maintenance in here. And so there are specific categories we can see a budget, see how much we've spent. And then, we always have the ability to drill down and gain more information from these, but it would probably take a whole ream of paper to give you the entire budget. It's about 100,000 accounts in our Munis system. And so individual accounts that we're budgeting, and these just roll it up into summary format for the board. So we're doing very well. Things are looking up from previous years. I'm very pleased with the progress and the financial position we're in.
But I see from looking at this and going through every one of these funds, get to 8% a little bit, but this is tells me that we're going to be able to pay the salaries, put the $2,500 that we had as a bonus into the base
For
this
the next budget year.
Yes.
The cost is about $1 million for benefits purposes. So that will we can certainly bring that forward for discussion in the budget presentations.
When you are sitting down with the staff and everything, that was one of the goals that we had, was to take that bonus, put it in the base, and then we still have to stay up. That just kind of brings us up where we're supposed to be, but we're going to have to continue to be #1 in the state because we need to recruit and retain teachers. And so there's still going to be a need for ESSER funds for a bonus.
Mm.
We need to pay the base.
We'll have more discussions about the ESSER part.
Yeah, these
I'm not sure that will
these numbers,
be an option,
these numbers show to me with the value of the mill, keeping millage. And we remember we still have banked millage
Yes.
And
Yes, so we have some information that we'll bring forward the next meeting regarding the budget, and so we'll give some data points of things we know now and where those funding sources might come from. So we have information now.
and inflation is dropping. So that's another thing that we to be looking at as well. But this is very, very encouraging. And one of the things we have to be very careful with is that we got people that's going to say, okay, you can start cutting. We can't cut. Because those 41 positions, number one, we have to be looking forward to that. And we have to stay at number one, salaries in the state. No doubt. Yeah, we can slide after 1 year. This is good. Any questions on it, Mr. Campbell? Ms. Boatwright's off. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions?
Also, in terms of preparing to go into the budget and having that conversation, I think it's imperative that we get as much information as possible prior to those final meetings of we have point A, option A, option B, and option C. Because also, you know, each individual school now is gearing towards certain programs and certain things. And that is going to be some of the tell-it-all into what else you need, whether you may need that as in this list, you may need that literacy coach, or you may need that parent, or you know, and then also it goes into, are you a what tier school you are, whether you are that's not really what I'm looking for, whether you
ESI or CSI or priority schools.
well actually that even makes it more complicated. But as in like some schools are what do you call it now? Like the Title I, there you go. Whether you're a Title I school and whether you're getting Title I funding or not, you know, that's going to tell us what each individual school looks like and what their plan looks like. And so I think I think here recently they had that administrators had that meeting in terms of what their plans are moving going forward. But I think that those are things that we would need to know in terms of how we're going to where money is going at, so that it does not look like though we just have an extra fluff of money and we're just trying to put the extra plus to wherever we feel the need to versus want. And so I think that the more information we get, the more that we understand and digest it, the more we can, you know, help people out and make them feel more of the confident that everything that we're asking for that we need, because I think that is what will fuel the referendum, even bring a referendum conversation. That's what's going to fuel it. You're talking about you showing them that you can give a great budget and you can support a budget. You have a budget that you can stand behind. Then that's going to be your segue into referendum. I mean that's from my standpoint and from talking to people in my community. You know, so I mean, so that is very, to me, that's one of the most important things in moving forward.
I'd like to turn to the 8% data. According to this, we closed out 2019, is that correct?
Yes.
That's a good start. And 2018, 2019 is very close to being closed out, $9,000.
Yes.
And so that should be a stroke of the pen. Take
Yes.
care of that. And then when I look at the monies for 20, 21, and 22, also we're getting down there. And we need to continue to press,
Yes.
pay those things down so we can.
What page is that?
This is on
25.
page 25.
Yes, I have, there's some technology that is remaining to be spent in 2020. So I have a meeting with Mr. Shohan next week. We're going to talk about those projects. And then 2021, I don't recall the specific projects, but I know Mr. Otting is actively working on them to close those older projects out. So I'll continue to push to help to make sure that we're expending those and
And we're,
wrapping those up.
and we're looking at 25 million for the 2024,
Yeah, we actually approved that amount last spring.
right?
And so you're getting ready to see in this spring, another $25 million request, excuse me. And so that will be a new round of funding, and we call it 2024 fiscal year because it's next
Right.
summer and it's July,
Right.
which is the following fiscal
Right.
year. So we'll be getting, the operations committee will be getting the 2025 projects soon. Next few months.
And what is our current total borrowing capacity in 8%?
It's a little bit, I think it's around $111 million total.
Okay.
And that was as of December, that was a projection that we had of around December 31st.
And also, in the 8% project, capital projects, are we making sure that any money left over that we do know about it, and we are
Yes.
putting that in the, right?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Wait, let's move on.
I have a standard time that I come and bring that to the board, so I always remember and you'll always know when to expect it. So it's a pattern. And we call it debt day, and it's going to be March 24th. So Brian Nurick and Franny Heiser will both be here that day. And I always bring the rollover unused 8% funds to that meeting. So I will bring, capture whatever it is at that point. Where budgets are closed out. So you'll likely see 2018 and 2019. And we'll be still probably working on 2020. So I'll bring at least 2 years worth forward to the board. The oldest 2 years that we have. And it will include not only the savings in the budget that you see here, but also any unused premiums or interest income we've received on those accounts as well.
And you can get into the details if you want on these pages here by year of where the projects are. Those that have not been closed out and those that have. So we've got this data well in advance, so we can spend some time looking at it, especially looking at our schools, because our schools got principals that say, where's this project that got approved? Where is it at? And this is where we can find it. And we can talk about it, get to in March.
This is a lot of detail, but this is the roadmap that we use to monitor, and they use to budget their projects, and the project manager uses religiously as well.
Mr. Campbell, we will have this on the finance committee's report.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Very good. Let's see, future topics. We still have, this is a list of future topics that we have in queue. I got the January transparency report, the January monthly 100,000 ESSER update, another one for the March 9th meeting, another budget update, the minority business enterprise report, and that's going to be probably all we're going to be able to do that meeting. Now, we still have outsourcing transportation, bringing maintenance back into the house, bringing custodial back into the house, the process of purchasing books and furnishings on Amazon, and efficiency rate total salaries by school. We haven't forgotten those. They're still there. But it's something that can, depending on your workload and the budget has to be your first priority, budget planning. So no one's going to be beating you up for all that, but it isn't. I just want to make sure that you know it's not forgotten. Okay. Having no
I do
other.
have a future topic.
Yes.
I have a question about how to get there to athletics. I know bookkeepers generally keep basically a record of how much athletics costs per school, correct?
They do have athletic budget, yes, yes.
And we have someone at the district level who does that as well too, or no? How does that work? What does that look like?
We monitor in the finance office, in the budget office, we monitor the athletic budgets as well, yes.
Well,
But the execution of that is now at student services underneath the new athletic director.
Yes,
So if your question is about how that is spent and what's the equity between all the schools, that has to be talked about in operations with the student services and the athletic department. It's now,
right, yeah, right. That what I was just thinking, I guess I was thinking in terms of finances, but I guess.
any recommendations, we do ask every department for input in their budgets and including student services and athletics. And we requested in all of the departments' budgets are due back to the budget office by February 17th for us to then analyze what the recommendations are. So recommendations for if they are asking for something to change in the athletic budget, then that would come through that budget process that we've requested information on. So we will hear that will give the director of athletics, the student services officer to the opportunity to provide any needs or other budget items that are that they would like to request.
any other topic? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? I'm approved, and so thank you very much. Very well done. And we'll see you.
Thank you much.
Yes, thank you to your team next week. I'm going to keep all of this because I want to try to have a meeting with Saves kind of over this with her. So he's not overwhelmed by. Yeah, so I'm just gonna leave this. I'm asking.
Get one more, or you wanted to?
No, I don't, I want to go over with her. I'll just say do that.
I'm sorry, Rep, and I missed it. Are you guys adjourned? Can end the
Yes.
meeting?
Yes.